Good evening. Hope everyone's had a blessed day and having a good evening. Just wanted to speak about a few things this evening, mostly pertaining to the rapture. But before I get into that, wanted to talk about the difference in what Jesus thought was more important. Now, granted, in Matthew 24 and verse 42, he tells us to keep watch for his return. And that's true, we should. Of course it's true, it's in the Bible, right? Okay. Well, anyways, something else that's in the Bible comes out of Mark chapter 16 and verse 15 and 16. And he said to them, "Go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned." So he gives us something that is more important than being watchful. Now, as Christians, we should not merely just keep looking for the coming of Christ. Instead, we should be completing the work that he set out for us there in Mark, telling us to go into all the world, preaching and teaching. That's what we're to occupy with. Not just watching, but he told us to go into all the world and teach people about him. And those that believe, baptize them so that they too may be saved and be able to keep watch along with us for his return. So our work's not done here. Won't be done until we're in heaven. And our work, aside from loving God and loving one another, being the two biggest commandments, most important commandments, is love God and love one another. So aside from those two, keep watch. But he told us to go bring in the lost sheep. That's what we're supposed to do while we keep watch, not just keep watch. And the thing is, his apostles, Jesus' apostles, asked him, "When will this be?" And he told them, "No one knows but the Father, not even the Son." But he told them for this reason, that it's more important to be ready for his coming than to know when his coming is. So regardless of when he comes, we're to be ready. Just like in the Galilean wedding ceremony, nobody knowed when it was going to take place except for the Father. If you've seen that movie documentary, is what I call it, Before the Wrath, it goes into great detail on it. And it also gives you a little insight as to why Jesus spoke in parables. But the parable, about the Galilean wedding, no one knew when it was going to take place except for the Father. The Son had to go and make everything ready in his Father's house. The bride was to be ready and waiting because she did not know the hour that he would come. So we should be ready at all times for his return. Being ready is more important than knowing when. Now, in my book, bringing the lost in is more important than the rapture. I know he's coming. I want to be ready when he comes. But I want other people to be ready too. And I want to give everyone the same opportunity to turn their life over to Him so that they may keep watchful and be ready for when He comes back. It's one less Satan gets, right? Now, we get into the rapture. Everybody uses the big verse out of Thessalonians 4:17, I believe it is. Now, Paul's description, Paul wrote Thessalonians 1 and 2, by the way, in case you didn't know. But Paul's description of the rapture says, does Paul really describe a rapture in that verse? That seems to be the question of many skeptics and scoffers. You know, you've always got these people, oh, rapture is not in the Bible. Rapture is not in the Bible. There's no such thing as a pre-tribulation rapture. Wrong. They argue that word is not in the Bible. And in addressing their argument, and keep in mind that the Latin Vulgate was the primary Bible translation utilized for 1,000 years preceding the Reformation. Now, in short, the Latin Vulgate reigned as the primary Bible translation longer than any other translation. Now, in the Latin Vulgate, the Greek word harpazo was translated rapamur, which is clearly related to our English word rapture, means taken up, snatched away, caught up. So those that the detractors who argue about this, that the term rapture is not in the Bible, they obviously are unaware of the prominence of the Latin Vulgate translation in history. And so in the Latin Vulgate, in that 4:17, it uses the word harpazo, which means snatched away, where we'll be caught up in the air with Him. And there is just so much information on that. I don't even want to get into that much, but anyways, they argue rapture is not in the Bible. But remember, Latin Vulgate reigned for 1,000 years before the English started translating it for us to be able to understand or comprehend. So harpazo is in the Latin Vulgate, meaning rapture. So therefore, rapture is indeed in the Scriptures. It is scriptural, regardless of what they want to believe. Now, even if they did not want to believe that, which if you have a Latin Vulgate, and I have me one on order, by the way, you know, talking about the wrath, you know, God talks about the wrath to come in the days of the tribulation. Would He not as much save us from His wrath as He did those in the olden days? And what I mean by that is, let's step back to the Old Testament. All right, Noah and his family saved from the flood, there being the wrath of God on the entire world, but He used water. All right, He saved Noah and his family. Jump ahead just a little bit further. Lot and his family saved, well, minus his wife. She turned and looked back. Always tells us, don't put your hand on the plow and look back. But saved Lot and his family from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. There again, his children saved from His wrath. Is He not as much going to save us from the coming wrath described in Revelation? Does he love us any less than he did those in those days? I don't believe so. And I believe that if you don't believe that he will save us from the coming wrath described in Revelation, I don't believe you got the right Jesus. I don't believe that you think God loves you or anyone else enough to save us from his wrath that's coming, because he did in the Old Testament. And I believe he'll do it again when the tribulation starts. I do not believe. I mean, it says we are not predestined for his wrath, but to have salvation through Jesus. And Jesus will come and carry us home before God pours his wrath on all of humanity that have rejected him, who have done evil, that does not believe in him. All those will endure his wrath. Granted, there will be many to turn to him in those days. And I pray that they do. But by that time, it might sound bad, but I want to be in heaven with him. I want no part of his wrath to come, because I've read the stories of God's wrath in the Bible, and it is not pleasant. It is not something you want to be present for. And another thing, even if you don't believe in the rapture, let me see if I can remember which verse that was. I believe it was in Matthew. But anyways, it says, whether you're asleep or not, you're going to be saved if you believe and have not rejected him. So you can go all day long saying there's no rapture, but when it happens, and if you've lived right and you believe, you're going to be standing in heaven wondering what just happened. Guess what happened, dude? The rapture happened. Yeah, we know you didn't believe, but you know, you're here. Congratulations. Anyways, so it don't matter if you believe in it. And, you know, just to do a spin on that, even if there was no rapture, God's not going to put you in hell for believing in a hope of his coming. He wouldn't do that. He's not the God of confusion. Satan is. That's the one you got to watch out for. Tells you all these pretty little lies and stuff. Promise you all this worldly treasures and stuff. But in Matthew, if you remember, we're supposed to put our treasures in heaven, where thieves can't break in, moths and rust don't destroy it. So that's where our treasures need to be. And you got to remember, there was a couple others raptured too. They never died. They never faced death. Enoch, his story is in Genesis 5:21 through 24. And then Elijah, 2 Kings 2:1 and 2. You know, they were taken to heaven. They never faced death. So there is just so much on it. How can you not believe in it? How can you not have that kind of hope in your Lord? I believe. And I'm waiting for him to come. Well, that's about all I had for tonight. Just a little thought on my mind. Y'all have a blessed evening.